Hey there, it's great to see you. Whether you've been part of this community for a while or this is your first time here, welcome. I'm really glad you clicked on this video because today's topic is a powerful one and it's one that not enough people are talking about honestly. So I want to invite you to take a deep breath, drop any judgments or assumptions at the door and come into this conversation with an open heart, because today we're diving into something that's often misunderstood, frequently misrepresented, and deeply emotional, even if it doesn't always look like it on the surface. I want to talk to you about male sexual desire, the truth about it. Not the TikTok version, not the rom-com version, not the locker room version, the real version. Now, before you think, oh, I already know what men want, it's obvious, or here we go again, men are just visual and physical, I want to stop you right there. Because there's so much more to this conversation than just libido and lust. Behind male desire, there's often a mix of longing, fear, insecurity, emotional need, and yes, even love. I've spoken to thousands of men over the years. I've coached them, I've sat with their stories, and I can tell you firsthand what they show on the surface isn't always what's really going on underneath. And that's exactly what makes this such an important conversation for women and for men, because understanding male sexual desire isn't just about learning how to navigate relationships better. It's about creating more compassion, more emotional connection, and more truth in our love lives. So if you've ever wondered, why does he seem so interested one minute and distant the next? Why does it feel like sex is the only way he connects? Or even why does desire sometimes feel so empty? This video is going to give you clarity, honesty, and a new lens to see desire through, one that empowers you instead of confuses you. This isn't about blaming men, it's about understanding them and yourself on a deeper level. So grab a tea, get cozy, and let's have this conversation. Because once you understand the truth about male sexual desire, you'll stop taking things so personally and start choosing what truly nourishes your heart and your worth. Let's get into it. When we talk about male sexual desire, the conversation too often gets boiled down to the surface level. Hormones, visuals, physical urges. It becomes this one-dimensional thing where men are portrayed as either predators or simple creatures who are only motivated by physical pleasure. But what we so often miss is this. For many men, sexual desire isn't just about the act of sex itself. It's about what sex represents. It's about the feeling of being wanted. It's about validation. From a young age, a lot of men are taught to tie their self-worth to how desirable they are to women. But here's the twist. While women often grow up being told to be wanted emotionally, men are conditioned to be wanted physically. And in that dynamic, sex becomes a kind of scoreboard. If a man feels that a woman wants him sexually, it sends him a message: you matter, you're valuable, you're enough. It becomes a shortcut to feeling good about himself, to feeling chosen. You see, underneath the desire for sex, there's often a hunger for significance, for approval, for closeness. But since many men are never taught to express vulnerability or ask directly for emotional connection, sex becomes the socially acceptable and often subconscious. So when a man is craving reassurance, or he's feeling insecure, lonely, or not enough in some part of his life, the desire for sex can spike, not necessarily because of pure physical attraction in that moment, but because he's trying to fill an emotional gap. He wants to feel seen, desired, worthy. This is why some men become hyper-focused on sex in a relationship, because every time their partner wants them physically, it confirms a belief that they're still lovable, still attractive, still wanted. And when that desire isn't as frequent, whether for natural reasons like stress, tiredness, or daily life, it can trigger a man to question his worth. Not because his partner doesn't care about him, but because he's interpreting the absence of sexual signals as a reflection of his inadequacy. Now, this doesn't mean that all sexual desire in men is about insecurity. That would be a massive oversimplification. Many men have a healthy, joyful relationship with their desire and enjoy physical connection in ways that are deeply rooted in love, curiosity, and fun. But what it does mean is that far more often than we admit, sex becomes a channel through which men seek the emotional safety and validation they were never taught to pursue in more vulnerable ways. And that's where understanding becomes powerful. Because when a woman can see this dynamic, she stops personalizing everything. She doesn't feel used when she senses that his desire is tied to something deeper. Instead, she can decide how to meet it, whether to meet it, and what kind of emotional connection she wants to foster in the relationship. The truth is, male desire isn't just about sex. It's about significance. And until we start talking about that, we'll keep missing what really matters. Let's talk about a truth that's easy to overlook, especially in the early stages of a relationship when chemistry is off the charts and you feel like you're living in a romantic movie. That truth is this: sexual attraction on its own will not hold a relationship together. It might spark it, it might give it that initial rush of adrenaline and obsession, but if it's not backed by emotional connection, by actual bonding, that fire will eventually burn itself out, and often it disappears just as fast as it came on. We all know the feeling of being magnetically drawn to someone, that electric energy when you can't keep your hands off each other. It's exciting, it's powerful, and it's addictive. But what many people don't realize is how quickly that high can crash when there's no emotional foundation beneath it. Without shared values, honest conversations, and real emotional intimacy, sexual attraction becomes like sugar, instant energy followed by an inevitable crash. I've heard so many people, especially women, say, "But it felt so real in the beginning. He was obsessed with me. The chemistry was insane. I thought we had something. And then one day, he just seems distant, less available. He pulls back. The sex is still there sometimes, but it feels different. Less connected, more like routine than passion." And the woman is left thinking, what changed? But often the truth is that nothing changed. It was always that way. It just took time for the illusion to wear off. This happens because attraction is not the same as connection. You can be wildly attracted to someone you barely know. You can crave someone's body without ever seeing into their heart. And unfortunately, that initial high can convince you that you're building something real, when in fact, you're just burning through the first layer of desire with nothing deeper underneath to sustain it. What keeps relationships alive and vibrant isn't just how good the chemistry is in the beginning, it's how well the emotional connection deepens over time. It's how safe both people feel to be their full selves. It's how well they communicate, how deeply they trust each other, how emotionally generous they are when things get tough. And when that kind of emotional intimacy is present, the sexual chemistry doesn't die, it evolves. It becomes richer, more playful, more connected. The desire stops being about validation and starts being about expression, about sharing a moment of closeness with someone who knows your soul. So if you're in a relationship that started with fire but now feels cold, don't just ask, where did the sex go? Ask, was there ever real connection beyond the physical? Because without that emotional glue, sexual attraction is like a match. Hot, bright, and gone in seconds. But with connection, it becomes a slow burning flame that can last a lifetime. This is one of the most heartbreaking patterns I see, and it's far more common than we realize. Somewhere along the line, too many women internalize the message that their body, their physical appearance, their sexuality is their primary source of worth. Not their intelligence, not their compassion, not their humor or creativity, but their looks and their ability to turn someone on. And when that belief takes root, it shapes everything. It doesn't matter how successful, talented, or emotionally intelligent a woman is, if deep down she believes her body is the main reason she's desirable, she'll start to overcompensate in the relationship. Now, this isn't a conscious decision. Most of the time, it's subtle. It shows up in the way she always tries to look perfect before seeing him, or how she pushes past her own boundaries sexually just to keep his attention. It's in the way she reads his attraction level like a mood meter. If he's more flirtatious, she feels safe. If he's distant, she panics and thinks, what did I do wrong? Am I still attractive? Did I let myself go? That anxiety leads her to believe she needs to perform more sexy texts, more lingerie, more keeping it exciting, because if the spark dies, she thinks she dies with it. And when that happens, she stops being present. She's not engaging from a place of authentic connection anymore. She's not asking herself, do I feel good around him? Is this a healthy dynamic? Instead, her focus is on pleasing, on maintaining his desire at all costs, even if that means losing herself in the process. This overcompensation isn't just exhausting, it's damaging, because it silently reinforces the lie that her worth is conditional. That if she gains weight, if she gets older, if she has a bad day and doesn't feel sexy, she's somehow less lovable. And that belief creates fear. Fear of losing him, fear of being replaced, fear of being invisible. So she clings harder. And ironically, the more she tries to earn his desire, the more she starts to feel empty inside, because no amount of sexual attention can fill a void where self-worth should live. But here's the truth. When a woman shows up in her fullness, not just as a body, but as a whole person, her value becomes undeniable. When she knows that her mind, her heart, her presence, her boundaries, and yes, her physical beauty together are what make her powerful, she stops chasing validation and starts attracting real connection. The right man doesn't just want her body, he wants her soul. And he can only connect with that soul when she lets go of the belief that she has to earn love through performance. So if you've been overcompensating, trying to keep a man's desire alive by constantly managing how desirable you appear, take a breath. You don't need to perform to be enough. You are already enough. Start connecting from that place, and you'll attract someone who sees all of you, not just the parts you feel pressured to emphasize. Let's talk about something that might surprise you, especially if you've been conditioned to believe that men are only after one thing. Despite all the cultural stereotypes and surface-level behaviors, most men are quietly, deeply longing for something they rarely know how to articulate, and that something is real intimacy. Not just sex, not just attention, but that feeling of being truly known, accepted, and emotionally safe. The challenge is many men don't know how to ask for it. They're not always taught the language of vulnerability. They're taught performance, to be strong, to be stoic, to be in control. So even when they're craving emotional closeness, they often reach for the only form of connection that feels familiar or acceptable: physical intimacy. This is why so many men seem to initiate sex in moments when underneath it all they're actually feeling scared, insecure, or disconnected. It's not always about desire in the traditional sense. Sometimes it's a way of saying, do you still want me? Do I still matter to you? Will you let me in even now? But rather than expressing that need directly, they reach out physically, not because they're emotionally numb, but because it's the only way they've been taught to get close without feeling weak. The problem is, this approach creates a loop where the deeper emotional needs are never truly addressed. He wants to feel loved and connected. She might be looking for conversation or tenderness. But instead, he initiates sex, and if she declines or pulls back, he interprets that as rejection, not just of the act, but of him, and that the distance grows. When what both people probably want is to feel safe again in each other's presence. But when a man does feel safe, when he senses that he can open up, be seen, be imperfect, something remarkable happens. That armor he's been wearing starts to come off. He becomes more present, more emotionally generous. He starts to communicate more, express more, even listen more. Because now he's no longer surviving in the relationship, trying to prove something or protect himself. He's actually experiencing the relationship. And that right there is where intimacy lives, in the emotional space between two people who have stopped performing and started being real. So if you've ever wondered why a man pulls away after sex, or why he seems avoidant in deeper conversations, it might not be because he doesn't care. It might be because he does, and that feeling scares him. He doesn't want to get hurt. He's been told to be strong, not soft. But deep down, he's yearning for something more. And when he finds someone who can hold space for both his masculinity and his vulnerability, that's when the real connection begins. Remember, it's not your job to fix him or decode every signal. But when you can offer emotional safety without sacrificing your own, you create the kind of intimacy most men secretly crave, even if they've never had the words to say it out loud. There's a powerful misconception floating around in modern dating culture. This idea that masculine desire is purely physical, that men are visual creatures who stay interested only when they're constantly stimulated, surprised, or seduced. But here's the truth that gets overlooked far too often. While masculine desire may be sparked by attraction, it's sustained by emotional depth. It's the substance underneath the spark that keeps a man truly invested, not just in your body, but in you. You see, men aren't immune to emotional hunger. In fact, they often carry it more quietly and sometimes more painfully because they haven't been given the same freedom to express it. But when a man meets a woman who sees past the surface, who reaches him not just through seduction, but through soul, something in him awakens. His desire deepens. It matures. It shifts from thrill-seeking into something that feels meaningful. He's not just chasing dopamine anymore. He's craving connection. Masculine energy, at its core, is directional. It wants to move towards something. It wants purpose. It seeks grounding. So when a man finds himself in a dynamic where emotional depth is lacking, where connection stays shallow, or there's constant emotional guessing, the energy eventually starts to wither. Sure, he might still stick around for a while. He might enjoy the attention, the intimacy, the excitement, but without a genuine emotional bond, the relationship becomes weightless. It floats until it fades. But when there is emotional reciprocity, when he feels emotionally safe and intellectually stimulated, something incredible happens to his attraction. It becomes more resilient. It no longer rises and falls with appearances or surface level interactions. It steadies itself in admiration, in respect, in a sense of, I see you and I want to keep discovering you. And in that space, desire becomes more than lust. It becomes loyalty. This is the part most people miss. They focus so much on maintaining physical allure, and yes, physical attraction matters. But they forget how sexy it is to be emotionally available, to communicate your needs, to hold space for his, to share things about yourself that aren't curated for approval, to be yourself fully, confidently, and unapologetically. That's the emotional depth that masculine desire can root into. Because when a man feels like you trust him enough to be real with him, that's when he feels truly chosen. And when he feels chosen, not needed, not tolerated, but chosen, that's when he shows up in ways you've never seen before. So if you want to spark something unforgettable with a man, yes, draw him in with your magnetism, your flirtation, your feminine energy, but keep him captivated by letting him meet the full version of you, the version that doesn't just light up a room, but makes it safe, makes it real, and makes it worth staying in. That's what masculine desire can't resist. And that's the kind of connection that lasts. As we wrap up today, I want to leave you with this. Understanding male desire is not about playing games or manipulating a situation. It's about recognizing the deeper needs that drive attraction. It's about realizing that desire isn't just about looks or performance. It's about emotional resonance, mutual respect, and the safe, authentic space where both partners can be vulnerable and real with each other. When you approach a relationship with this kind of emotional intelligence, everything changes. You stop chasing validation, stop worrying about constantly being enough, and instead you lean into who you really are, the full, multifaceted, imperfectly beautiful version of you. And that's exactly the version of you that men are truly drawn to, because it's the version that invites connection, depth, and true intimacy. So the next time you're in a situation where you're wondering if you're doing enough or if you're keeping his attention, remember this. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real, being emotionally available, and giving him the space to show up as his best self too. That's the kind of dynamic that creates lasting attraction, and that's the kind of relationship that thrives. Now, if you found this speech valuable, I encourage you to take action today. Start looking at your relationships through a new lens. Ask yourself, am I focusing on the depth of the connection? Am I bringing my full self to the table? And if you're ready for more insights like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because there's so much more to learn about relationships, desire, and how to build emotional intimacy that lasts. Thank you for being here. And remember, the more you understand yourself and what you need, the more you can offer to others.